Welcome to the latest edition of the Dennis Maniloff Show, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. Producer for this show is Chase Smith. And this edition is going to be a one-topic deal. It's going to be about Jose Ramírez and his contract with the Cleveland Indians. The Indians, as we tape, they're a sub-500 team. They just lost on a Monday night or is this Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday. Tuesday night, they lost to Texas in the opener of a 3-game series. They're not going anywhere. They're way out of it in the division race. They're way down in the wild card, so playoffs are out. But at this time of year, you look to individuals to get you excited for the coming years. That's where the motivation is, I think, if you're Indians fans, is what guys are going to help you going forward and help this team compete. Well, the main guy is the best player on the team, Jose Ramírez, and he gets me excited to watch the Indians even when I don't see a whole lot of prospects on the team. And I'm not saying there aren't on this particular lineup, but in other words, Ramírez and a bunch of mannequins could be out there, and I would enjoy watching the Indians lineup just because of Jose Ramírez. He is one of my favorite players in all of baseball. I just love the way he goes about his business. He's a great player, not a good player, a great player. And unfortunately for Ramírez, he is playing under one of the worst contracts you could possibly play under. He's in the final year of a 5-year, $26 million contract. And it gets worse for Ramírez because in 2022, he has a club option for $11 million, and 2023, he has a club option for $13 million. Both of those club options, according to Cott's contracts, the great source for contracts, that's where I get my contract information. And the terms of Ramírez's deal have not been disputed as they've been disseminated all over the place. So Cott's has this thing nailed. They say that Ramírez has a chance to get $1 million bonus in each of the option years if he hits some performance thresholds. But at the most, those club options would bring Jose Ramírez $12 million and $14 million. Jose Ramírez has played at a level that is worthy of, something in the neighborhood of $30 million a year. So even the club option portions, which look like raises because he's only making $9 million this year, they're not really that big of a deal. If he has a club option picked up for next year of $12 million, let's say 11 plus the performance bonus, and then $14 million in 2023, 13 plus the $1 million performance bonus, he's still grossly underpaid. All right, so I have decided, in the absence of, that many other people doing it, that I'm going to beat the drum. Maybe I shouldn't use that term now that the Indians are being replaced by the Guardians. I'm going to hammer the table for Jose Ramírez to get what is right by him, and that is a new deal from the Cleveland Indians. The other day I tweeted out at Mr. LaPara, period before at Mr. LaPara, that's his Twitter handle, his extra base hit count during his 5-year, $26 million contract is now up to 324. Parentheses, 169 doubles, 18 triples, 137 homers. Ridiculous. It is long past time for the Indians to do the right thing, void the option years in 2022 and 2023, and give Jose a new deal. Hashtag pay the man. That was my tweet from, I've got it dated here, August 21st. He hasn't had an extra base hit in the 2 games since, so he's still sitting at 324 since 2017. But think about that. Try to wrap your brain around what a bargain Jose Ramírez has been for the Cleveland Indians. He has produced 324 extra base hits for $26 million. And there's still a month plus left of games. That is mind-boggling. And it's something that not many people seem to want to talk about for whatever reason. I don't know. What are they trying to, they don't want me talking about it. Why? Why shouldn't we talk about a player being legally robbed? And I mean by truckloads of cash. You could argue he's being robbed by more than $100 million. Okay? At least. So when I tweeted it, I expected I would get backlash. I didn't figure a lot of people would be supporting it because for some reason, people want to choose the billionaire owner over the millionaire player. And predictably, as I expected, I did get backlash. But I was ready for it because I said, I'm going to tweet this. I know I'm going to get responses. I'm ready for the negative. And I thought what I would do in this podcast is address some of the negatives that I got, the blowback. First, hey, Dennis, a deal's a deal. Don't you realize? I'm just summarizing. I'm going to summarize the negative responses to the tweet. Sort of an amalgamation, not a direct quote, but an amalgamation of the thought. Okay? Thought number one. Dennis, don't you realize a deal's a deal? He and his agent signed. The Indians are under no obligation to redo the contract. And by the way, I didn't even say redo. I said tear it up, to void the last 2 years, which are option years, and give him a new deal. But the point being is that he signed it tough and too bad. My response to that is that sounds great in theory. And yes, technically, practically, he did. And he put his name to the paper. He signed his name to it. Nobody held a gun to his head. And yes, the Indians took a chance on him when he was largely unproven heading into 2017. But it still doesn't change the fact that Jose Ramírez has outperformed this contract by light years, by leaps and bounds that we can't even conceptualize. So, and players asked to renegotiate their contracts all the time, and more than a few times, the franchises will oblige if there is something egregious going on. And that's what's happening here. Jose Ramírez has played for relative peanuts for 5 years, and he's still going to be drastically underpaid for 2 more years if the Indians pick up those options. So, yes, he signed the deal. And, here was the other part of it, sort of an addendum to that criticism, to that particular criticism. Well, players who get signed to gargantuan contracts, they don't give the money back when they perform poorly. That's not Jose's concern. That's not his fault. It's not his fault that the Indians got burned by, Michael Bourne and Nick Swisher contracts. And so maybe they're concerned about signing Jose to another deal, or they're saying, well, gee, if we didn't get money back from Bourne and Swisher, then Ramírez shouldn't, he's not going to be giving us money back, so we're even. It's not Jose Ramírez's fault that bad contracts have happened to every team over the years. Ramírez is only responsible for himself and his production. He can't worry about anybody else. And so I don't hold the, he signed it, so he's, you're obligated to play that out. One of the other reasons I don't buy that is because I am raising this issue now for a reason. Because this is the 5th and final guaranteed year. You didn't hear me saying that Jose had to renegotiate after 2017 or after 2018 or after 2019 or after 2020. I'm talking about it now because the guaranteed portion is coming to an end. The club options are coming up. And I had more than a few baseball players tell me over the years when I used to write for the Plain Dealer and I was down at the ballpark a lot in the 90s and early 2000s. And I would talk contract a lot with these guys, mostly visiting players because I was in the visiting clubhouse a lot. And they would say to me that if I ever, meaning them, each individual that I was talking to, if I ever outperformed my contract by leaps and bounds, by, a dramatic amount, and the club picked up my option after the guaranteed portion was over, I would be fuming and furious and disgusted, because all you're doing then as the club is you're saying to the player, we got a bargain from you for however many years. In Jose's case, 5. And in Jose's case, beyond a bargain, legalized theft. We got a unbelievable deal out of you for the breadth of your guarantee deal. And now guess what we're going to do? We're going to stick it to you 2 more years with the club options. What kind of message does that send when you're going to jack up the best player on your team for 2 more years because you got him for the first 5? So you're going to be like, yeah, we're going to keep doing it for 2 more years. No. And another criticism that I heard from people, well, actually, I'm looking at them now. One of them says, shh. And actually, it's more than one. I was like, shh, keep it quiet. Well, that's the other thing. It's funny to me. Why do we have to stay quiet about Jose Ramirez's contract? I don't understand it. There are so many people that don't want anybody to talk about. Why not? Can you imagine if Jose Ramirez played in New York? Well, first of all, you laugh at me and say, there's no way Jose Ramirez would be signed to that kind of a contract in New York. But imagine if if Ramirez were playing in New York and he was in the final year of a 5-year, $26 million deal, and the Yankees had club options on him in 22 and 23 for way below market value, on top of the way below market value contract he's playing for. You think the Yankees media wouldn't be talking about it every day? Talk shows wouldn't be talking about it every day? But for some reason, because we're in Cleveland, we can't ruffle any feathers, and everybody's got to be, shh, don't say anything about Jose's contract. Why not? This is obscene. And one of the things I've had to say before I get into another couple of criticisms of my tweet, nobody in Jose Ramirez's camp, not one person, foremost among those people, Jose Ramirez himself, no one has come to me with any gripes, any complaints. None of Ramirez's people has said anything to me. They don't know me. I don't know them. Jose Ramirez, I've been a part of a couple of media scrums with him, and we needed an interpreter. So he doesn't know me. I don't know him. He's never reached out to me. I've never reached out to him. His agents certainly have. Nobody. This is not coming from Jose Ramirez, because typically you get people to go, oh my goodness, what's going on here? Why is he mentioning this all of a sudden? Why is he beating the table for a new contract for Jose Ramirez? He must be getting it, must be back channels where Ramirez's people are frustrated and they want a new deal. No, that's not what this is. Is it possible that Ramirez's people have talked to the Indians about a new deal? Yeah. Am I privy to those conversations or that knowledge? No. This is my own brain trying to process an unbelievable contract that is being played out by an MVP candidate. That's all. I'm in my own little world sending these tweets out and doing this podcast. I'm not getting it from any of Jose's people. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. I've said that on my radio shows on WTM 1100 and 106.9 FM. Another criticism. There's no way the Indians under the Dolan ownership are going to give Jose a new deal. You know what? I'm saying the odds of a new deal are slim and none. Yeah, I said it. I don't think that the Dolan Family Trust, led by Paul Dolan, I don't think the Dolan Family Trust is going to do what I hope the Dolans do, and that is tear up the final 2 years of the club options and give Jose a new deal. But that doesn't mean that I can't talk about it and I can't want it, which speaks to the difference between will they and should they, or will it and should it, because ownership isn't it. Will the Cleveland ownership, given what we know about it, given how we know it operates, will it do something like this and not exercise the club option on at least the first one, 2022, before perhaps trading him before the 2023 option? Will the Dolan Trust sign him to a new deal? I said slim and none. Almost certainly no. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't do it. That's my whole point here. I'm trying to lay out what I think is a ridiculous situation that needs to be remedied. And just because I don't think it's going to be remedied doesn't mean I can't talk about it. Like here was one of the criticisms toward that end. This take is just amateurish. Not a single competent front office in pro sports operates like this. I mean, just because the Indians have gotten an unbelievable return on their investment for 5 years with Jose Ramírez doesn't mean they have to continue to get that unbelievable return for 2 more years. The club option portions. That's all I'm saying. So I don't see how it's amateurish. And by the way, a front office or an ownership should look at this situation the way I'm looking at it. Going, wait a minute. We got an MVP candidate. We have the heart and soul of the team, the most popular player on a team that needs popular players, mind you. A team that certainly doesn't look to be going anywhere this year. No playoffs. Already had its manager check out because of health concerns. Is changing the name of its team from Indians to Guardians. And that hasn't exactly gone over swimmingly. So you would think an organization that's had some turmoil and has its best player playing for relative peanuts, you would think an organization would want to rectify that, would want to remedy that, and do right by the player. I'm not asking the Indians to rework anybody else's contract. I'm not asking the Indians to extend anybody other than Jose Ramírez. I think Jose Ramírez deserves to be an exception to how the Indians do business because he is an exceptional player. He has turned out to be an exceptional player. I call him on the radio the BBIB. I'll call it on the podcast. Best bargain in baseball. Nobody is close to what Ramírez has done for his team. Nobody in baseball is close to that for what he's getting paid. So I'll plead guilty if you're complaining that I have an amateurish take that the Indians should rip up his option years and replace it with a new deal. Fine, go ahead. Go at me. I like my hill that I'm dying on, by the way. I got no problem with it. Here's one that agreed with me, because they weren't all disagreements. There were plenty of people who had my back. Was shocked when he signed the deal initially, but if anyone has ever deserved an early upgrade extension, it is he. By the way, this isn't even an early extension. This is after 5 years, after the guaranteed portion is over. So, I get the sentiments. Okay, pay the man, pay the man. Indians will never give him a new contract. Are you kidding? And then the gifts about you with guys laughing. And there's, the Indians are too cheap. They'll never pay them. And LOLs. Okay, fine. Go ahead, mock me. I don't care, because I know I'm on the right side here. And at the very least, the Indians could offer him something. At the very least, the Indians could say, Jose, you mean a lot to us. You've played to a level, the way the market is these days, you've played to a level of about $30 million a year. And the reality is you've made a total of 26. You're going to make a total of 26 in 5 years. We don't want to pick up your options. We want to avoid them, tear them up, whatever term you want to use, and we want to replace it with a new deal. How about this, Jose? Okay, what would I propose? If I'm the Indians, I would propose 4 for $100 million. You say, well, gee, Dennis, you just got done saying he was playing for peanuts. Now you're going to underpay him again. Yes and no. The offer of 4 for $100 million is an offer that is well short of what the Indians clearly will not pay. There's no way they're going into the 200 to 300 million stratosphere. That's why Frankie Lindor was gone, years before he was even gone, because you knew they weren't going to be able to afford it. So what you do if you're the Indians, in my opinion, is you ask him, or you propose, you offer a deal that's shorter in guaranteed years, shorter considerably in guaranteed money, but it still represents a dramatic increase in salary from what he could be getting in 2022 and 2023. Part of the value of the $100 million is tied up in the fact that you're increasing his pay on an average annual basis from 11 or 12 to 25, 13 or 14 to 25. So that's part of the, undervalued type of contract that this is. And I'm keeping it at 4 years so that Ramírez can walk, or the Indians can move on from Ramírez when he's still young, because Ramírez turns 29 in September. So he would still have, age 33 and beyond season to play for somebody else at a much higher value. But thinking off the top of my head, and also listening to some of the offers that were thrown out on Twitter, 4 for 100 sounds like a decent offer. It's not too long to bog you down as a club. It's not too high to be so unrealistic that it's, completely pie in the sky. Because even though I say that I don't think it's going to happen, I think at $100 million for 4 years, a professional team that even wants to take itself seriously in today's market has to think that's not a terrible offer. That's not a backbreaker. Would Jose Ramírez agree to that deal? Probably not. I wouldn't say that he would, but I think he would think about it, because if he doesn't take something like that, then he knows he's got to go into 2022 making 11, no more than 12 million, and perhaps go into 2023 making 13, no more than 14, because the Indians have that type of control on him. So he would have to think about it. at least. Give him an offer where he would have to think about it. That's essentially what I'm asking. Another one of the common criticisms. Geez, Dennis, you're talking about Jose Ramírez playing for peanuts, and you don't understand what a teacher makes, what a fireman makes, or a policeman or woman, or a custodian or service economy worker. Oh, how dare you talk about an athlete playing for peanuts when you have all these people in the world who would love to make what Jose Ramírez makes. Oh, stop with that. That's such a tired line of thinking, okay? And I urge anybody who's listening to this, if you haven't already, get past that. Get over that hump. It's useless to compare most salaries to major professional sports. I mean, there are some smaller professional sports where the salaries aren't going to be outrageous and it's comparable to the quote unquote real world. But when you talk about MLB, when you talk about the NFL, when you talk about the NBA, to name three, and even the NHL, don't even waste your time comparing the salaries of those athletes to the salaries of the average Joe and Jane in the working world. It's a fool's errand. It's fruitless. It's a fruitless exercise. I am only talking about Ramírez in relation to his peers, specifically in relation to those who perform at a talent level that he's performing at. Has nothing to do with what firemen do or don't make. Has nothing to do with what law enforcement does or doesn't make, or what a grocer does or doesn't make. Nothing to do with any of that, or a teacher. I would love to make $26 million. I would consider myself the richest man in the world. But that's irrelevant. Is Jose Ramírez in the poorhouse? Of course he's not. Nobody's saying that he is. And anybody who does say that should be called out on it because it's a flat out untruth. He's a one percenter, pretty much, I would think. When all of the contracts that he's going to play under are done, when his playing career is over, he's going to be a one percenter. He made money before the $26 million over 5 years from 2017 to 21. He's going to make a minimum of $24 million in the club option years. He's going to make a ton of money after that when he moves on. So Jose Ramírez is set for life times 10. His family's set for life. Nobody's disputing that. Nobody's whining for Jose Ramírez. Oh, the poorhouse for Ramírez. No. But relative to what his peers make, peers who perform at his level, that's all that matters. It's called market value. You judge Jose Ramírez's market value based on what comparable players make. You don't judge it based on what teachers and policemen and women and firefighters and, administrators and whoever else makes. So stop with that line of thinking, with that kind of argument, because it's ridiculous. So, and here's one of the criticisms: the Browns should draft Brandon Weeden. I mean, they go low on me there because they know I liked Weeden coming out of Okie State, and I was happy that the Browns drafted him at quarterback after they got Trent at running back. And yeah, Weeden flopped, but at least he wasn't a number 1 overall pick or a 2 overall pick. He was in the late 20s of the first round. Yeah, it didn't work out, but they moved on from him fairly quickly. They found out quickly that he wasn't very good. I never said he was going to the Hall of Fame. I just thought he was going to have a good NFL career because he had a rocket arm. But I underestimated his game IQ and his football IQ. Yeah, I blew it on Brandon Weeden. But you want to talk about things that are disconnected? My blowing it on Brandon Whedon should not dent my credibility when I'm talking about Jose Ramírez deserving of a new contract. You get my point there? You want to talk about two separate issues? So, yeah, here, again, I'm looking at more of these things. This is the one I hadn't seen yet. Talk to him about an extension, sure, but hell no, I'm not voiding anything. It's a contract. What if I play bad? I don't have to give anything back. But if I play really well, you should pay me more. What's wrong? I mean, once again, that's not how sports works. Okay? That's not how it works. A player is allowed to go to management in Major League Baseball after a 5-year contract and say, hey, I outperform my deal exponentially. I would like a new deal. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing. But you have people on Twitter responding to my tweet as if I'm asking for some, here's what some of the reaction was. It made me feel like I was asking the Indians to give a mediocre player a ton of money. But give a mediocre player a new deal. Some of the tweets were acting as if I was asking the Indians to give a new deal to a good player. But that's not true. That's not accurate. Ramírez is a great player. Okay? So with great players who have outperformed their deal dramatically, a deal is not a deal necessarily, especially when it goes into the club option portions, because I want to go back to finish this up. What I said earlier, how a player views a contract, a major leaguer with club options. If that player has been incredible during the guaranteed portion of the deal, the last thing that player wants is for the option to get picked up. Because that option almost certainly will also be a bargain for the club. And what you're telling the player is, we stuck it to you for X number of years, and we're going to stick it to you a little longer. And that ain't right. And this kind of stuff reverberates around the game. And we sit back, these jokers, some of these jokers, a lot of the Twitter responses, I have no problem with disagreements, respectful, but, some of them, they get really nasty. And by the way, the Whedon response is not nasty. It's below the belt, but it's not nasty. But you got people that, they get personal with you and they call you a bleep and all that. You're a bleep. You don't know what you're talking about. You bleeping idiot. And it's like, these are the same people who wonder why good players don't line up to play for this team, or who might not be interested in playing for this team down the road. Even if, let's say, miraculously, there was an offer extended to a good player to come here as a free agent, a la, Swisher and Bourne back in the day through 2013. Let's say that happens again. And these players are like, nah, we'll pass. We're not really interested in the Indians. Well, why do you think that would be? Because they would have seen how Jose Ramírez was treated over the course of his contract. This stuff reverberates. It's not done in a vacuum. Jose Ramírez is not playing in a vacuum. And if you don't think that players around the league aren't aware of what Jose Ramírez's contract is, you're naive. Really naive. Let me tell you something. Coming from a guy who's been in clubhouses a lot, especially visiting clubhouses. These players are well aware of what a lot of guys are making. I'm not saying guaranteed everybody knows everybody's deals, but they know an awful lot of them. Money is on the minds of these guys over day after day after day, hour after hour in some cases. So there are plenty of people who are aware of the money that Ramírez is being paid to be an MVP candidate in Cleveland. And they're well aware that he has 2 club options coming up. And they're waiting to see what the Indians are going to do. So this is not happening in a vacuum. And by the way, another thing I need to mention, when I said that Ramírez, he didn't come to me, his people didn't come to me, from what we know, none of them making waves. Friend of mine, great dude, Andre Knott, WTM host also, but most notably a Bally on-field reporter covering the Indians. Andre Knott knows Jose Ramírez as well as anybody in the media. He has told me that Jose Ramírez views his $26 million deal as life-changing money. He's thrilled to play the game of baseball. He doesn't take money into the batter's box. He doesn't take money out onto the field. He locks in on the game that night and having the best time he can while playing the best he can. He's not governed by the almighty dollar like some of these players are. Like I would say the majority of the players are. That's not how Ramírez is wired. Based on where he came from and based on his values and how he does things, he doesn't roll that way. So not only am I saying that nothing's coming from Ramírez to me to pound the table for him, I'm also saying that based on what Andre is telling us, Ramírez doesn't think about it. He's not worried about it. So you say, well, if Ramírez isn't worried about it, why should you be worried? Well, just because I am, because I'm an observer, and I know I won't get a penny for this campaign. No, nor do I want one. I just want the Indians to do what's right and take care of a great player. And even if my initial proposal of 4 for $100 is considered low, which it is, based on his market value, I still think it's a significant upgrade over the next 2 years. And it's a shorter deal, so he can get out of here and still make a lot of money. In other words, I think that a 4 for $100 offer in lieu of the 2022 and 2023 options would at least be something that would get his attention. And not force him to think about, but prompt him to think about. And then he would, politely decline. Okay. But the Cleveland Indians should send a signal to their players and their fans and their investors and their advertisers that they are willing to do right by the best player on the team, the most popular player on the team, the heart and soul of the franchise. That's the bottom line. All right, thank you very much for listening, and I really appreciate it. And that'll do for the one topic special of this particular edition of the Dennis Maniloff Show. Chase, how did I do? Agree or disagree with me?
Yeah, I got one thing to say, D-Man. Home run pitch.
I thought you were going to say Brandon Whedon.
No.
I'll never live that down, that I fell in love with Whedon at Okie State. He had a cannon. I just didn't realize he didn't really think the game. And
Josh Gordon made him look real good.
Too big for him.
Yeah.
What's that?
Josh Gordon made him look real good.
Well, I mean, he didn't throw to Gordon. You're thinking of the other guy that went in the first round. I can't even remember his name now. His principal wideout was a stud. Tennessee got him, I believe. I can't remember. Not Andre something. But no, he never threw to Gordon. You're talking about with the Browns. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking in college, coming out of college. You're right. No, you're right. Gordon was his guy, and yes, Gordon made him look good. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you meant college.
Yeah,
Who was the guy that was on Okie State, the receiver?
The Jaguars drafted him.
Jaguars.
And its first name is Justin, begins with the B. Justin Blackman.
Justin Blackman. Yeah. It was an amazing combination at Oklahoma State, and Blackman probably made Whedon look better than he was. Perhaps Whedon helped Blackman's stock a little. I don't know, but yeah, I fell for the arm. I fell for the arm talent. I just didn't recognize that there were a lot of limitations elsewhere, and the game just moved too fast for him, and he didn't pan out. But as I said, the Browns didn't waste a top 10 pick on him. That was Trent Richardson that year, and they got rid of him relatively quickly. It's not like they saddled up to him and waited for him to figure it out after 7 years. No, they were done with him essentially after 2.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'll take the hit. I'll take the hits on Whedon. But if you want to compare me being off about Brandon Whedon to me asking the Indians to do right by Jose Ramírez, well, there's not much. I can't help you then.
Look, we fell for a lot during that time with the Browns. Like you can't just single out Brandon Whedon and say, well, how'd you miss, or how did you get excited about that? We took a lot that the Cleveland Browns were feeding us, man. And we all excited about a lot of things.
And Chase, you're so right. And here's the thing. I take the abuse about Whedon, but I seem to recall a lot of people were in love with Trent Richardson when he was picked. The stud out of Alabama. Oh my gosh, what a great pick. Trent Richardson at the Browns. Oh yeah. Well, those people quietly kind of disappear. Those people who loved Trent, and all they want to do is rip me for Whedon. Well, you know what? We all make mistakes, but listen, I'm not making a mistake by advocating for Jose Ramírez. I'm not.
No, sir.
And
no, sir.
That's the bottom line. And as I said, I don't think Jose worries about it. I'm going to trust Andre Knott on that. But just because he doesn't worry about it doesn't mean I can't worry about it.
Sure. No, yeah, it's part of our discourse as fans, as reporters, to say, hey, this is what we think is in the best interest of the club. And I think what's important about this conversation, D-Man, is your conversations with the visiting players and how like other players view that option year. Like the Indians have to think about, or the Guardians, sorry, have to think about like how this looks internally. I mean, there's already not been a lot of good PR as far as contracts previously. Like they need a win here.
And how about this, Chase? Imagine, and I don't want to denigrate Jose's agents at all, okay? Because it's very possible whoever, they may be a singular, maybe multiple, whoever was representing Jose at the time he signed his deal. As we said, largely unproven. The money was great at the time. The Indians were making a significant investment in him when, they weren't sure he was going to pan out. They certainly weren't sure he was going to be MVP caliber year over year. So I'm not denigrating the agents at all. But imagine if Drew Rosenhaus represented Jose Ramírez. You think for 1 second Rosenhaus wouldn't be in the media talking to people as early as 2017 saying, I want a new deal?
Yeah.
Or if he swooped in after the original people signed the deal and he was the new agent, you think that Rosenhaus would just sit by and go, hey, you know what? A deal's a deal.
Yeah.
I'm representing Jose Ramírez. We're going to ride this thing out for the remaining 2 club option year. No.
Right.
But the fact that Jose's representatives have chosen not to do any of this, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean you can't bring it to light. That doesn't mean you have to keep it quiet. I know why the Indians would want to keep it quiet. They don't want you talking about it because they don't want you to realize what a bargain it is, but we already know that. So the more they can keep that on the down low, the better off for them. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about it.
I'm not saying anyone who advocates for more money because they're better at their job than what they're being paid, like, doesn't mean they're not a good person. But the Indians are very lucky that Jose Ramírez is a genuine person, and that seeps out into other aspects of his life professionally, because the Indians aren't in a good spot right now.
Well, the translation of what you just said is, if Ramírez were a red ass, if he wanted to make waves, he could make them. And And what would be the counter to Ramírez making the waves? Well, you signed the contract, so I'm outperforming it by leaps and bounds. So what?
Or
you want to challenge me on that?
If a player's not vocal, look what Francisco Lindor did. He essentially almost admitted that he didn't try as hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so that's the other side of the coin is you have a player who is just playing baseball because he loves the game and he's playing it at an elite level.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, like I said, I'm not keeping my fingers crossed, not holding my breath that they're going to do anything. But, and this will probably be the last time I talk about it at length on the podcast. I'll probably keep mentioning it on my radio shows. But
unless Kevin Love doesn't pay Jose Ramírez campaign, you're probably not going to talk about it.
If only Ramírez could get Kevin Love's money. Oh, my gosh. That would be fantastic. All right. Thank you very much, Chase, for producing, especially this late on a Tuesday. And thank you very much, everybody, for listening. We'll talk to you soon.